Welcome back to a new episode of Confessions of a Photographer, and this week we are going to do a Q&A session. A while back I asked on Facebook if anybody had any questions that they might want to have answered by me, and I got lots of questions, so this episode might be a bit longer than usual. Let's dive into the questions. The first question is from Tom Lambrechts, who asks, which could be a reason to switch back to a DSLR camera? For me, no reason at all at the moment. In the beginning, when I started using the mirrorless cameras, they were behind on autofocus, on speed, some other things. But I think these days the difference has become small or even non-existing. So for me, there's no reason to go back to a DSLR. Now, that doesn't mean that DSLRs are not good. If you prefer shooting with a DSLR, by all means, go ahead. Maybe just for things like professional sports photography or wildlife photography, DSLR might still something that I would consider because of the speed, because of the autofocus, and maybe also because of the lens selection, because in mirrorless we don't really have the fast extremely long prime lenses, for example, that are often used in sports. But other than that, no, I'll stick to mirrorless for now. But that said, camera is just a tool, and you just pick the best tool for the job for you. Jannes Dirks asks, what do you think about the new Fuji 50mm f2? Weird or interesting focal length? I don't think it's weird. On a crop sensor, Fuji crop sensor, that becomes something like a 75, which would still make a good portrait lens, I guess. I really do like the f2 series lenses of Fujifilm. They're reasonably cheap, they're weather sealed, and they're very compact and light. So for a traveling photographer, I think they're definitely an option, and it's good to have like an option with a wider aperture that is a bit heavier, that might be a bit better in quality and have a lighter alternative. So not weird for me. I'll probably stick to my 56 1.2 for now, but if you're new to it or if you want a smaller lens, I think it's definitely a good option. So I think it's good by Fuji to get that second line of lenses that are smaller, lighter, cheaper, but have a bit they need a bit more light, but that's only marginally, so I think it's a good job. Chris asks, what is more important, technical quality of the picture or content? Well, definitely content. If you have to pick one over the other, I would definitely go for content. But that said, I think it is about finding the right balance. I like technical quality in an image too, but sometimes you have to surrender some of the technical quality in order to capture the content. So it's always a balancing thing. I like to get both in the same picture, but it will also always be a bit of a compromise, and I would rather compromise on the technical quality than on the content. So Chris also asks, doesn't the post-processing possibilities, Lightroom, Photoshop and others, make photographers lazy? It may make some photographers lazy, and I see a lot of bad images that are trying to be saved in Photoshop, but there's still the good old thing that is still valid: garbage in, garbage out. You can work as much as you want on a bad image. It will never be a good one, I think. So also, I think that definitely in a professional world where time is money, it's often a better way to, or it's more economical, makes more sense to be a bit more aware of your images while you're taking them than to fix them afterwards, because generally fixing something afterwards in post-processing will take more time, and clients are not always willing to pay that. I have no moral objections against post-processing. I would say I always choose the way of the least resistance, and generally that is getting it right in camera, but sometimes it can be easier to remove something in post or something. Asioli Photograph asks me, you had a chance to work with the new Fuji GFX medium format camera. Tell us your thoughts regarding this camera. Well, I've only handled it very briefly on 2 occasions, I think. I saw an early prototype at Photokina, and I handled it at some meeting or something, but I never really shot with it, so I'm not going to give any opinions on it right now. My first impression was very impressed with what it does with the speed, how it handles, how light it is. It's not the prettiest camera, to be honest, but I'm very interested to give it a go, and I hope to get my hands on a GFX camera sometime soon, and if I do, I will definitely make an in-depth review for you. But for now, I haven't really had enough chance to play with it to form a definitive opinion. My buddy Laurent asks me, would you consider shooting film again? Not for commercial work, and why not? Do you think it could still bring something extra to someone's photography? Well, Laurent, I'll still be shooting film, not that often, but I like film. I started out in film, not professionally, but my first steps in photography were on film. And there's something to be said about the magic of a print appearing in the developing bath. That was what got me hooked on photography anyway. So I think film still has that unique look, definitely in black and white. It's not a question of whether film is better or worse than digital, I think, but film has that unique quality, that unique look that I'm still very attracted to. So I think it still definitely has a place, and it's something that I also still like doing. I don't have much time for it, but I'm sure that I will always return to film for some projects or just some playing around. The good thing also about film is that it slows you down. You have to be more aware of your settings and everything, because there's no chimping. You cannot say whether your image is good and then take it again. You have to wait until it's all developed to see whether your image works. So it makes you more aware of every setting of your camera, and I really like that. So sometimes it's good to shoot a roll of film to slow down. It's also good to, you know, go back to the basics every now and then. That's always good. And also for young people, I think shooting film is definitely a good option to try every now and then. And even in a professional market, there's still a place for it. There's still album covers that are being shot on film. There is still weddings that are being shot on film, portraits that are being shot on film. For the unique look, I think it's often done a bit for the gimmick, but you know, if that is your business plan, then by all means, why not? But I think there's definitely still a place in a commercial field for film too. So yeah, film, keep shooting film. I know that you are shooting quite a bit of film lately, and I see it has a positive impact on your work, so keep shooting film. Hector Gonzalez asks, can you tell us how you see light, natural light for portraits? Tips for different scenarios, different feel, how to find locations, and from what angles? Well, Hector, that's a very, very good question, and it's one that is very difficult to answer from a desk, like sitting right here. So I'm really going to put that on my list of videos to make. Karsten asks, I would love to hear more about video. How do you plan things? How do you shoot? How do you make sure you have enough footage to cut an appealing video? The big thing about video is that you have to plan. You cannot just go out and shoot some video and then throw it together and edit a good video. You can do it, but it's a very dangerous thing to do, and it's not the general best practice to do. I usually go out with an idea in mind of what I want to capture and which images that I need. So you have to be editing while you're shooting, actually, not physically editing your footage, but in your mind you have to think, I need this, I might need an image to transition from one part to the next, I need an ending, I have footage of this person doing this, so I need him to explain it too, so I need to record that later. I usually keep notes on my phone while I am shooting video, shots that I still need to have based on what I already shot. I definitely want to talk more about video on my YouTube channel soon, so I will probably go in more depth about the planning and scripting of video somewhere soon. Henry asks me, do you use the optical viewfinder? If you do, when? Honestly, I don't use it very often, although I have it. I generally use the electronic viewfinder, and I could live without the optical viewfinder. If Fuji, for some kind of reason, would decide not to put the optical viewfinder in X-Pro 2 or X100 series cameras, it would not be a deal breaker for me. That said, I use it every now and then. I use it when I've been shooting for a very long day and my eyes get a bit tired, and I might switch to optical viewfinder for some things. And sometimes I just switch to the optical viewfinder just to switch, just to have like a different thing in mind. But I'd say 90% of the time I use the electronic viewfinder. Quinton has also a couple of questions for me. The first one is, which kind of photography pays your rent and your bills, and how did you found this niche? Well, I would say that I have different sources of income when it comes to photography. Probably around 50% of my income comes from commercial work, and there's a big variation in it. There's a lot of portraits in there. There's some documentary style work that I do for companies and brands. I think about 20, maybe 30%, depending on the year, is from teaching in some kind of way. This can be workshops that I organize, but also lectures and things like that. And the remaining 20% is all kinds of other things like weddings, family portraits, things like that, selling some stock images. My work is probably a bit all over the place, too much all over the place. Much more than I would want, actually, and it's my goal in 2017 to narrow it down a bit more, to make it a bit more clear to clients. This is what I do. Make it also more clear to me what I want to be doing for a living. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place, and that doesn't make me happy. It makes things complicated. I kind of rolled in from one thing to the next. I started out by shooting family portraits and weddings mainly, and then I moved into more commercial work, but I still kept doing the weddings. The problem is that I still like to do all these different things, and well, to me they're actually not that much different. If I shoot a reportage for a company about recycling waste, to me that's not different than shooting on the streets or shooting a wedding. I'm documenting things my way. If I shoot a series of portraits of CEOs, it's not different from shooting a family, if you come to think of it. So to me it is possible to do all those things. I love doing all those things, but it is harder to market because you're marketing to different audiences, and I'm a one-man band, so it's a bit too much. I'm a chaotic one-man band. I should add to that. So it is a bit too much for me, and I really would like to narrow it down a bit more, make it a bit more clear what it is that I'm doing. But first I need to make it more clear for me before I can make it, or I can market or target the right clients a bit better. So that is definitely a big working point for me this year. Oh yeah, I also make money on YouTube. I think the last 2 videos made me $3 in total. Quinton also asks, is photography and videography still 2 separate things? I believe that photography and video are still 2 separate disciplines. That doesn't mean that you cannot offer both though. I think technological advancements, but also the needs that clients have, make it easier for us to do both. But being a photographer, getting into video is not as easy as it sounds. I see a lot of photographers who try to get into video and they make the most amazing shots. But video is not just shots, it is telling stories by putting those shots together to tell a story. And a lot of photographers struggle with that. And that's what I mean if I say it's still another discipline. But we see mixes more and more. I get more clients asking me about video too. So it's something that I'm definitely getting back into a lot more these days. Last year I spent a lot of time kind of figuring out what is the current state of technology when it comes to video. I started in video a long time ago and then went to photography, and I resisted for a long time to get back into video, but I think with the possibilities we have these days, I'm actually very excited to combine photography and video and offer both services. There will still be occasions where I need to outsource the video work, but I can still be the guy that puts it all together. I can still be the single point of contact for clients to do video. So it's a very interesting evolution. Can you still survive as just a stills photographer? Yes, I think you can. But I'm really interested in that evolution from photography to content creator, because I think that is something that will give me an advantage in the market. So yeah, I'm going to explore different things, and I will share quite a lot about those explorations with you on this YouTube channel. Last question from Quinton: if you can only have one body, one lens and one light for the rest of your life, I would probably go for an X-Pro tube, a 35mm and a speed light. X100 series might also be an option. Another question from Yanis: why is there an on-off switch on OIS lenses? These are image stabilized lenses. The main reason why you may want to switch off your image stabilization is when you're working on a tripod. You don't want that lens to be moving when your camera is on a tripod. Also for long exposures and things like that, you don't want it to be on. Well, another reason is sometimes you just may want to have a bit more blur in your pictures, and then you may want to switch off the image stabilization. So as long as you're shooting handheld regular stuff, leave the image stabilization on, but if your camera is on a tripod, turn it off. I'm starting to get the feeling that this Q&A might be a bit too long, so I'm going to split it up in 2. I'm going to stop for now, and I'm going to post part 2 in a couple of days. See you then.